All right, the Chiefs are favored in this one by 3. I'll start the picks off. I'm going with the Chiefs, and the biggest question for the Kansas City Chiefs for me is protecting Patrick Mahomes. If you give the guy time, he is tough to beat. He's almost impossible to stop, and for that reason, I think the Chiefs pull out a very pivotal game.
I'm with you on the Chiefs winning. I have a 2-point win, 27 to 25 in this one. And you really did bring up a good point about how the position groups are really strong for the Saints. And I really like the Saints. However, they are missing one really important position that I'm trying to catch a ball. Clearly, I'm not a receiver. But ultimately, Michael Thomas being out is very difficult because without the multitude of options, there's just not as many different ways that they can attack through the air. It makes it more one-dimensional. And yes, Alvin Kamara is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But it just becomes easier to defend when there's less crazy weapons everywhere.
Yeah, that was disappointing to find out Michael Thomas will be out, but I got the Saints winning in this game by 3. I mean, come on, Cynthia. If you're going to try to thread the needle with a 2-point Chiefs win, just go the whole way. Go Saints. They wanted to take Patrick Mahomes in the draft a few years ago. That was a crazy turn of 2 franchises. They didn't get it done, but they can get a little revenge this week by getting the victory. Eagles are underdogs by 6.5. This is my favorite thread the needle game of the week. That means I am picking the Cardinals to win, but only by 3 points. I think it'll be a really good game. Wouldn't shock me if the Eagles pull off an upset, but I like Vance Joseph and what he's done. Really underrated as a defensive coordinator this year, using your boy, Budda Baker, Cynthia.
Budda Baker. Well, let's light this up for Budda Baker, and also because it's one of my finest picks on this one. I have 29 to 20, so a big Cardinals win, like in this battle of Oklahoma quarterbacks. The interesting part here is they've kind of seen this game before, so they'll be able to plan. The Arizona defense, they don't always keep the down linemen, like they don't always like line up in normal ways. You're right about Vance Joseph being very tricky, and that's really helpful in terms of making Jalen Hurts not know what he's looking at. So for me, 29 to 20. What do you have, Hawk?
Yeah, I'm going with the Cardinals as well. I do think Kyler Murray gets it going and has a game against the Eagles. But similar to last week, I called for Jalen Hurts early in the season. And even though I picked the Saints, I wasn't mad to see him do well. And I'm going to say the same thing this way. 2 Oklahoma quarterbacks battling it out. Still letting my man cook as we get the picks here. Seattle is favored in this one by 6. I am going with the Seahawks. I think it'll come down to both of these defensive front sevens and can they get pressure on the quarterback. The Seahawks have gotten much better since they've added Carlos Dunlap, so I think they'll do enough to get the W. What do you guys, Cynthia?
Okay, so I'm lighting this one up because I have only a 3-point win. So I have 25 to 22 in this one. Everybody loves a good 22. I think that it comes down to without the quarterback, that's not a great situation without Alex Smith. It's very difficult. And even though this defense has been targetable and has been vulnerable, there's only so much that Terry McLaurin can do, right, on his own. So, and without their normal running back, that it's just too many things to overcome in this one, unfortunately. Greg?
Yeah, I have the Seahawks winning by 7. I think this is a great test for where they're at. They're going to play the Rams defense next week. If they can't win this game comfortably, they look like a one-and-done type of playoff team. They've done it before. You're right. Running backs do matter. Chris Carson has really helped this offense, and Antonio Gibson is the key for that Washington offense. So I think Washington not as competitive this week.
All right, well, let's get the picks. The Browns are favored in this one by 6. I am absolutely going with the Browns. I know I talk about them weekly, but Greg, you tell me I got a love fest with Rashard Higgins. Has he let us down at all week in and week out? Is he not out here making plays?
He did it. He did it. I mean, he had like one drop or so at the beginning. I was thinking of you, but he looked great. He looked great.
If you're watching our first segment,
Cynthia, who do you got?
If you're watching our first segment, I turned orange in the middle of it, which really tipped my pick. I'm taking the Browns in this one. Right now it's by 3, 25 to 22. However, I'm looking at the injury report and I see James Bradbury, their great corner. He's on the COVID list. So if he's not playing, it'll become a much bigger win for the Browns.
Yeah, I have the Browns winning by 7 points. We're not sure who's going to start at quarterback for the Giants. We know they're going to be missing their play caller, Jason Garrett, now Freddie Kitchens. Man, it would just be 2 Browns to lose to Colt McCoy and Freddie Kitchens. I just don't want to live in a world where that happens. I think this is a new Browns era, Hawk, and that you're going to be happy on Sunday night. This little tease there. The Vikings are favored by 3 in this game. This was the toughest game to pick of the week. I'm taking the Vikings 25-23 because of Dalvin Cook, because he can break those tackles, because that Bears secondary with Jalen Johnson, Buster Screen, a little banged up right now. I think Trubisky and the Bears offense keeps them in it, and they play well, and so it's not all about Mitch sometimes. times the defense is going to have to play well against this Vikings team. Don't think they get it done. What about you, Cynthia?
Ooh, are you trolling me? I have also a 2-point win. I have Vikings winning 24-22. There's a lovely score. People love when I have 22s and 24s, for that matter, together. But when I look at this game, the kind of thing that really tips the scale for me in terms of what happens is then you have Mike Zimmer, and he doesn't get got twice. So when you see that defense and you see what happened last time, I think Mike Zimmer, and they've had more time now to really gel as a defense. They were so young, and this is a division game. They know each other so well, and advantage defense for Zimmer just by a teeny bit.
I love it, Cynthia. We're on the same page. I think Mike Zimmer turns it around, and as well as Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook does have a big game this week, and he's a guy that, depending on who you talk to, could be mentioned in the MVP race. But I think if he has a big game, then the Vikings will pretty much run away with it. And shout out to Justin Jefferson, a young wide receiving prodigy. All right, Pats at Dolphins. Dolphins are favored by 2. We're going right to picks here. I'm going with the Patriots, which in some weird world of football, people don't trust Belichick against a rookie quarterback. Are you serious? Remember the movie Rookie of the Year, where the one guy he went against told him he eats fastballs, and even though he had heat on his arm, he was taking it over the park? That's what Belichick does to rookies. He eats rookies. Look what he did to Justin Herbert, a guy that probably a better rookie than we've seen over the last decade plus. He is going to win the first game against Tua, which doesn't mean Tua's a bad quarterback. It's just par for the course. What do you got, Cynthia?
That's so funny. I have Patriots as well. I have them by 1 point in this one. 22-21. There's another 22. I'm going to be so happy right now. But ultimately, Mike Gesicki's missing. It's probably missing. We're not sure. Again, that's another reason you have to tune in on Sunday. And that's a really big deal because when you have all these missing pieces and you have, the running backs have been oft injured. They've been a kind of a carousel of different people catching passes. You've got injuries all over the place. At some point, it just becomes too much, especially for Gesicki, who's really come on strong as to a security blanket. He's the Gronk to the Brady in the past, right? So ultimately, Patriots defense gets the edge in this one.
I am so surprised at your picks. I have the Dolphins winning 27-19. Have you guys watched these two teams all year? I mean, the Dolphins have evolved. Tua has evolved. He is playing his best football. I think he's a tough evaluation because he doesn't have the big arm like Mahomes or Herbert when he comes out. He doesn't have the athleticism like Lamar. He reminds me more of Drew Brees, and that style of player, kind of winning with your head, it's going to take a little while, and it's subtle, but you see him making good decisions, going through his progressions, knowing when to be aggressive, when not. I think the Dolphins win this game. I think they win it going away. Ricky, what do we got next?
Texans at Colts. We literally just did this 2 weeks ago.
I know, it does seem like it. I watched that game. It was very evenly matched. And yet in this game, the Colts are favored by 7.5. I don't quite get it. It's a division game. I think the Colts will find a way to win. I have them winning 30-26. But in a division game, you look at who's playing the best on offense. It's the Colts. It's T.Y. Hilton, the ghost. He's back. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why they've busted open in the last few weeks is T.Y. Hilton looking like T.Y. Hilton. He gives them that great option outside and really settles down the rest of the receivers. So I think Rivers is playing as well as he can, but I think Deshaun Watson keeps this game close. What about you, Cynthia?
I have not a close game. I have 28-20 in this one, and kind of for all the reasons you said about T.Y. Hilton, except invert them now that there's no Will Fuller, right? When you don't have Will Fuller and you don't have that piece, or you're missing multiple potential pieces in terms of your wide receiving core, you get in a real jam. And as good as Deshaun Watson is, and as good as he is on the run, and as good as he is upside down, backwards, forwards, every possible way that he could potentially have to play, it's going to be difficult for him without Will Fuller, without that presence, to be able to just really have an edge on the Colts defense, this great Colts defense. However, and I will say, there are some potential. You got to come back. I just reading this injury report. Anthony Costanzo might not be playing, so that could maybe shift my score a little bit closer. But again, you got to come back Sunday. But what do you have, Buck?
I love it, and I'm going with the Colts as well. You talked about Will Fuller not being there has affected the Texans' offense, and I agree. Even though Deshaun Watson has been playing really well, even if Fuller was in this game, I don't know if he'd have time to get to him, because that's what I'm looking for. Can this Colts front seven put pressure on Deshaun? Because, like any quarterback, Deshaun is not any different. That when you put pressure on him, he just doesn't play as well. I think they keep it close, but I think the Colts come away with a victory. It's time for some quick picks. We have the Bills at Broncos. Bills are favored in this one by 6. We're getting right to it. I'm going with the Bills, and I know I don't ever stop talking about the guy, but he is my version of Cynthia's Buda Baker. Stephon Diggs, I can't say enough about this dude, man. I've always said he was so underrated. He needed more shine, and he has the Bills, along with Josh Allen and company, playing lights out, so I expect him to win again against the Broncos. What do you guys, Cynthia?
I mean, I love Diggs too. I have an 8-point win on this one, 28-20. And just to follow up your point with a nerdy stat, because everybody loves that, ain't nobody got more yards off hitch routes this season or off any single route this season than Stephon Diggs does off of the hitch route. Almost 400 yards of his total are coming off those routes. So there you go. You can tell that to your friends around your holiday table. And so really make things more cheerful tomorrow.
I love the flavor you brought to that, Cynthia. I'm taking the Bills to win this game by 5. A guy that brings a lot of flavor too is Drew Lock. I'm not really buying his good game last week. A lot of open receivers, a lot of time. Not sure he's going to have that this week. But I do think the Broncos defense is a test for young quarterbacks to pass. Vic Fangio is so good. They're great in the red zone, so I think they can keep this game close. Sneaky good game on NFL Network. I'm looking forward to it. Saturday night, we got another one. It's the Packers and the Panthers. The Packers are favored by 8.5. You're trying to keep me away from my family right before Christmas. I'm not falling for it, NFL Network. I'm going to see some overpriced holiday lights, socially distanced in my car. I'll watch the first half at home, and then I'll come back and I'll see how Aaron Rodgers is racking up touchdowns and getting that MVP, because this Panthers defense cannot stop him. 37-26. There you go, Cynthia.
Well, I have a 10-point win in this one, 32-22. So you won't be really missing anything real time if you just, pause it and then you can come back later for your lights. I want to talk about Davante Adams. Interesting thing about him, he's lining up more in the slot this season, which is new. I mean, he's always lined up in the slot, but not as often. And if you look to see how Aaron Rodgers is evolving and how they're really using play action, they're doing these things that come from LaFleur. It's a real melding of the quarterback skills, this awesome wide receiver. And by the way, Tyreek Hill takes issue with the fact, Davante Adams takes issue with the fact that you said Tyreek Hill was the best receiver in football right now. And I'm on Team Adams as far as I'm concerned.
I'm not mad at that pick. I think Davante is a beast, and he's another one. Because he has such a great quarterback, people don't give him as much credit as he deserves, but he does have a great quarterback. And you're right, Greg, this coach has been coaching his butt off here because he's got this offense gelling. We're watching Aaron Rodgers at 37 years old play just as good as he ever has in his career. For that reason, I am going with the Packers as well. I think that they are the team to beat in the NFC, and they will continue to hold on to that top spot and get the bye into the playoffs. So Packers win big over the Panthers. All right, next up, we got the 49ers at the Cowboys. The Niners are favored in this one by 3. I'm going with the 49ers, man. Kyle Shanahan, they've had an up-and-down year. This team has faced a ton of injuries, a lot of which ways that this thing has gone. But I look at them against the Cowboys, and it really is, to me, a coaching matchup. And I don't think McCarthy has gotten the best out of his coaching staff at times. They've also had injuries, and we've seen Andy Dalton get a sweet taste of revenge against the Bengals last week. But I think that stops this week against the 49ers.
I have a 4-point win in this one, 22. Oh, another 22. Love that this week. When I look to see who the ball is going to be thrown to, it's Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel has been ruled out. There's a lot of missing pieces. So go with the guy who's been playing really well. If you look to see how many passing yards he's forecasted in my models, it begins with an 8. So that's a lot. So something in the 80s. That's a really good fantasy day for your team.
All right, I am going with the 49ers as well. I feel as good about this pick as I do at any this week. I have them winning by 4. I think it's like the last chance for the Cowboys to disappoint their fans. They're coming off a blowout when they're like, oh, maybe this NFC East isn't quite over yet, but they've got the better coaching staff in San Francisco. And you mentioned Ayuk. I love watching him each and every week. I love seeing what Kyle Shanahan is going to do. Finally, we got a division game. It's Bucs Falcons. They're going to play twice in the final 3 weeks. It is the Bucs favored in this game by 6 points. I have the Bucs winning by more than that, a touchdown. I really expect the Falcons offense to be limited without Julio Jones. He is out, and they are just not the same without him. I think you put Carlton Davis out there on Calvin Ridley. That takes care of that, and there's not enough weapons for Atlanta to keep up with Tampa Bay.
I've seen Carlton Davis get burned too. I have a 5-point win in this one for the Bucs, 28-23. Division matchups, they always have that little extra flair, especially in the South for whatever reason. And the interesting part when I look to see, okay, who is going to be the pass catcher without Julio Jones? How are they going to do this? And honestly, that could possibly make it, I'm not going to say the word easier, but I think that makes the game plan in terms of how you look to see what's going on easier to forecast, meaning less points. And that means you're going to have good Tom Brady. He's going to have a nice day through the air, but it doesn't need to be some crazy 320-yard day again. Something a little bit more conservative, like 280, something like that makes a lot more sense in this one.
I love that Tom Brady is 43 years old, and we can still say that he's going to have a 300-yard game or a 280-yard game. The dude has been balling, man. I mean, yes, he's been up and down, but he's 43. I will say this, though. I am on the team that has never gotten used to seeing him in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. Every time we show highlights, it looks weird to me. But it won't look weird to the Falcons because they are all too familiar with watching him drop bombs on their defense. 28-3. All right, so the Bucs win this one. Let's go to some full screen picks of games that I'm pretty sure we're all in pretty lockstep on.
A lot of blowouts here. You guys agreed the whole week. I mean, you're putting me to sleep, Hawk and Cynthia picking the same games. Do you guys go over your picks ahead of time? Is Hawk cheating? What is happening here?
I mean, we just pretty much get together and we're like, what's going to make Greg the most mad? And that's what we choose to do. That's every single week what we choose.
I can't really complain.
This is the best
I'm
way.
with you right here on these picks at least.
This is the best way to keep you in third place, Greg. Me and her just agreeing
Exactly.
and just making sure we keep you at bay for the remainder of the season.